Hey y'all, it's your captain for all things creative coming at you with Married at First Sight, Chicago, season 18, episode 11. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you are returning, thank you so much for rocking with us. And if you haven't subscribed and you're returning, it's time to have a change this new year. Subscribe, get into the community, be a co-captain. Now, let's talk about the experts because they frustrated me in this episode. We saw a lot more of them, but especially Pastor Cal. This man was a victim and a villain at the same time. How did he sit through that gaslighting session with Ikechi and still choose violence, still choose to thrust Ikechi on Emem and try to get them to do a reset? I hate that word in manifest. Every time they say reset, just know you're about to have frustration and foolery. So let's get into all the things. So the first victim, I guess, of the experts in all of this would definitely be Emem. We'll start with when Pastor Cal and Ikechi meet, and all I could think was like, what am I watching? Like, even Pastor Cal directly had to ask Ikechi not to gaslight him because all Ikechi did was lie. When Pastor Cal asked Ikechi if he ever disrespected Emem, he said no. And never. But then Pastor Cal, I guess, who had obviously seen footage of what this menace was doing, he basically called Ikechi out and asked him if he called Emem an asshole. And Ikechi was like, yeah, well, if someone acts like an a-hole, he gonna call them one. And then after that, he did the full, like, David Chappelle, Rick James, 188. He was like, yeah, I guess I disrespected Emem sometimes. So he admitted that he lied, but that he kept going with his lies, talking about how Emem makes him feel small, these things. And Emem basically would have married anybody. And that's the point of the show. You sign up to marry anybody that they put in front of you. That's what Pastor Cal was telling him. He was going off about how Emem, would have done the same stuff she did with him with any man. And Pastor Cal was like, yeah, that's what we encourage. Like, you guys are set up with people that you don't know, and you are encouraged to just dive into the marriage with anyone we give you. Like, do you not know? So you applied, 3 times for the show, and you're acting like you don't know the premise? Ikechi was getting on my nerves. And Pastor Cal's faces showed that he knew that Ikechi was on some BS. So why does him and Dr. Pia call themselves trying to convince Emem to get back into the snake pit? I don't get it. So Emem met with Dr. Pia, and Dr. Pia basically asked Emem what her part may have been in the demise of their marriage. And there's a saying in my culture, it takes 2 hands to clap, right? Anytime things fall apart, it's probably, both sides of the situation that has something to do with it. I don't think Emem is perfect because it is clear that Emem is thirsty, right? But that's, again, part of the premise of the show. I think to fully go into a situation of wanting to, make a relationship work with a stranger, you have to have some level of, stick-to-itness, determination, whatever. And Emem has all of those things. And I think she did genuinely like Ikechi too. So it was coming across as thirsty, which might have been a turn-off to Ikechi. So again, I see how Emem is not perfect, but at the end of the day, she's actually doing the process correctly. So for them to kind of, try to uplift Emem's faults the way Ikechi did it is just unforgivable, because again, this is the process that he desperately scratched and clawed to get into. But then with Dr. Pia, she basically also called Emem out for not matching Ikechi's energy, right? She used some example about how, like, if her husband comes home and, or fiance rather, because I guess Dr. Pia was using her own situation with her fiance as like an example, and saying that, like, if her fiance had a bad day, it's not gonna help to keep asking him questions like, what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong, tell me what's wrong, why you don't want to talk, right? Which is true, right? Basically, she encouraged Aaron to lead with the feelings, because part of the question, and I guess constant wanting to dive in to the details, like logically and through words, is actually part of MM showing her feelings and that she cares. So Dr. P was basically telling her to just lead with the feelings and the care. Like in the example of her fiance, what she would do is recognize, okay, he's having a bad day. And then if her fiance didn't like to be questioned, what she would do is just be there for him, show that she cared, and then let him talk to her when he was ready. Which is good advice. I'm not going to hold you, but at the end of the day, again, the problem is that Ikechi is unserious about this situation. Like, he goes to bed at 9 o'clock. Like, he works all day, right? He comes in the house. He runs to the bed. So, like, they don't have a chance to talk. So the little chances that gets to get to know him, in the little time that they have, she's trying to make a rational choice herself, because she also has to make a choice on decision day. It's not just Ikechi. So, again, could use the advice and try to meet Ikechi where he is, but where Ikechi is in a snake pit, being a snake, because he basically betrayed his true feelings when he called her that after the dinner, when he said how, she's always trying to prey on him, put her tongue down his throat and grab on him. He sees her as a aggressive predator. He said it. So there's no reason for to try to, match his energy. He's out to embarrass her and paint her in a negative light every chance she gets. So matching his energy at this point is too late. So you see Ikechi and about to meet up after they separately talked to Pastor Cal and Dr. Pia. And he says before the interview that he understands that he has done some wrong, so he takes a little accountability, I guess, before the interview after Pastor Cal calls him out. But then he says what he had done is all a reaction to the wrong that had done to him, and I was so tired of him already. So both Pastor Cal and Dr. Pia are there to mediate the meeting with Ikechi and and Ikechi's the last one to show up, which already betrays his true unwillingness, because I was always, of the persuasion that, like, people are late to places they don't really want to be at, If it is the Wicked movie theater premiere, I'm going to be early, face painted green, all of that, ready to sing the songs. But if it's, trying to shovel snow, it's going to take me an extra hour to put on my clothes and go do it, because I don't want to do it. So I think Ikechi was like, because he don't really want to be there. He shows up with his hiking backpack of props and costumes, and I wish they would just say goodbye to him this episode, but they don't, obviously. So the experts reduce Ikechi and Emem's problems to it being an art versus science disconnect, since needs logic and reasoning, while Ikechi works by the flow and feelings and art. And they also say that the two of them also failed because they tried to control the process too much. And just wrapping up this Ikechi and Emem scene, because it just started to get me so mad that they're oversimplifying what is clearly a pattern of evasion, manipulation, and verbal abuse. And they're basically saying that Ikechi and Emem are trying to control the process, but it's Ikechi trying to control how he is perceived rather than showing up for Emem. That's what they should have said, right? He, again, in my opinion, wants to avoid the villain edit because he does not like Emem. So at every chance he gets, he's trying to paint her as this aggressive, horrible person who's belittling him. And I think Alan said it best in After Party, where Alan basically says that he doesn't think that Akechi has done the work to check his mental processes. And for him, he sees Akechi as looking at situations, and once he hears one or two words that trigger him, he just starts spiraling in his own head about it and twisting things to kind of confirm however he wants to see the world or portray other people. And that's so Alan did better than the experts, basically, on After Party than they did the whole damn show. So basically, Akechi is the one trying to control the process. Emem is doing the process but getting harmed. So she needs to be removed from harm, but that would not be a good show. So the experts encourage Emem to return to harm. And Dr. Pia, silly self, talking about, I don't think the process is going to work unless you two move back in together. When she knows that Emem is being harmed, and the two reduce the harm to just it being Akechi being defensive. And while Akechi definitely gets defensive, he also goes on the attack to Emem. Like she has said, he's yelled at her at restaurants. He's basically tried to embarrass her at the couples that are being passive aggressive, ignoring her, talking negatively about her to the other couples without talking to her, getting up and leaving when she tried to sit next to him. It's all horrendous behavior on his part, but they're just gonna gaslight him by saying, oh no, he's just being defensive, y'all can make it work. So why, instead of taking herself out of what she knows is a harmful situation, why does Emem be the first one to ask Ikechi, will you move back in with me? And here, the thirstiness of Emem, it's gonna make me have to look at her sideways a little bit too, because she's way too smart for this. She has her own practice. She knows Ikechi's on BS. She was correct last episode when she was talking about him being in the Joker suit and, you know, being on BS being wild. She knows exactly what Akechi's number is. But again, I think she still likes him for some reason. But Emem, you have to like yourself more. I need you to be like those people in the past who's like, nah, this is my decision day. I'm not going to let any more harm come to my reputation and to my mental health and to me. I need to leave this process. Emem should have stood up for herself, but again, she let the experts gaslight her. And because she's so smart and I believe in her, I am also looking at her sideways too for that. Especially for her making the first move, because she had also vowed that she would take a step back a little bit and let Ikechi lead. So here, just the fact that she was the first one to say, oh, would you move back in with me? I was mad at Emem. So Ikechi basically says that he will move in, but he needs understanding from Emem and wants Emem to see things more from his perspective. So he's already starting with the asks, putting the burden on Emem to do more emotional labor. And I can't. I'm very done with them. And apparently he's gonna start getting abused again. In the previews, he was talking to her crazy, and Emma was doing that thing where she just closes her eyes and acts like he's not saying the negative wild things. And I just hope by the next episode she decides that, hey, I gave it the old college try, but I need to end all of this for my own sake. Moving on, the next victim of these experts is definitely David and Michelle. But Michelle's not a victim as much as David is. I think in Michelle's case, the experts definitely did her dirty. You saw from these last episodes, they kind of pushed David onto her. But again, she lied on the job application because they asked her directly, well, if we have a guy who, maybe doesn't, have everything all together, but he's going to, would you be okay with that? And you saw Michelle's face kind of not want to accept that, but I guess because she wanted to be on the show, she said, all right, I'll do it. But she lied on the job application. So Michelle is not a complete victim, even though they did match her up with somebody she did clearly have reservations about. But at the same time, Michelle is the villain to David. And she's definitely been very hard on David. When both of them meet with Dr. Pepper, both of them talk about their past hardship. And Michelle basically says what I've always been saying. She don't want to go back to the skirt club. She doesn't want to go back to her past as, a struggling country bumpkin. So this is why David scares her. The fact that, he lives with his parents. He's not striving to get away from his roots or, the people related to his childhood. She wants to be as far away from her childhood and people that are stuck in childhood as much as possible. So she does not see David as a viable partner. But yet she called herself acting like she's trying with the relationship a little bit more this episode by taking David to basically give him a makeover. She already done tried to pluck his eyebrows because I guess she don't like all his hair. She don't like nothing about him, but last week she had directly picked on his outfit. So this week, instead of like picking at him, she's a little bit more positive and proactive by taking him shopping. But again, it's the blind leading the blind. She had David in a Canadian tuxedo, denim on denim, looking bad. And she claimed that Drake or Travis Kelce would wear a suit like that. And I said, no, ma'am. You need help yourself. You have the country vision, I guess, of what fashion is. David, he's not a bad looking man, so he managed to find something to look nice on him like that, a little burgundy blazer or whatever. But Michelle, don't do this again, please. Don't do something that people have actual jobs doing, like there are stylists. You could have roped in a stylist friend, something. But Dave was being a good sport. All Michelle has to, I guess, is up here before David with the blonde hair, and he forgets all the abuse because he's into the blonde hair fetish so bad. But David, I need you to stand up. Yes, you are a victim of the experts and Michelle's abuse, but you also need to stand up for yourself because she don't like you. But apparently, I guess you're gonna be getting yours on the side next week. We're gonna see, I guess, the racy text messages. But these two also get on my nerves, and Michelle knows that she did not get exactly what she wanted. It's partly her fault, though, for telling the experts that she would be okay with a situation that she knows she's not okay with. But at the end of the day, these two don't have no business being together either. But they're trying, I guess, to follow the experts' advice to make it work and maybe avoid the fee of breaking up. So you get this bad fashion show with bad vibes and a marriage that clearly is not going to work. But go off. All right, so let's wrap up the rest of the couples and end with Alan, who's in trouble with me this episode. He was the worst, even worse than the episode, the episode's experts. So yeah, let's talk about Camilla Thomas real quick. Camilla Thomas meet with Dr. Pepper, and she applauds them for basically doing the process great and asks them to share their struggles with one another. And Tom talks about his childhood struggles that involve his dad, and Camille talks about her childhood struggles involving her parents' divorce and her becoming basically a parental child. And they actually both cry this time. Usually it's only Tom crying. And Tom was glad and basically asked Camille, to keep being vulnerable and emotional. And she asked the two to write the letter to their younger selves because I guess none of the other couples are ready for that. Next couple was Juan and Carla, and she them eat sushi and talk about business, and the sushi looked really good. Like, I want to know exactly what restaurant that was because I want to go. And then Carla even brought a notebook to the sushi time to pick Juan's brain about business. So it seems like, she's trying to capitalize on his advice and also get to know him in the area that he shines in because, of course, he always wants to portray that he's this businessman. They also do Pilates and they pick crystals with Carla's mentor. And Juan still sneaks in talking about business a little bit when they're doing that, while Carla's talking about opening up her third eye with the crystals and helping people heal from trauma. So these two have differences that might be too big to overcome, but Juan at least seemed a little bit more respectful and understanding of Carla this episode. And Carla also was trying to move towards Juan in terms of embracing the business talk. So our last couple. So the big fight between Madison and Alan this episode is all about drinking and driving. So we see kind of the nanny cam hidden footage of them talking after having been out, and Alan basically packs a bag and it's like, listen, I don't want to sleep here tonight. I'm going to my place. And Madison is really upset because she knows Alan is intoxicated and doesn't want him on the road. But he's like, whatever, it's fine, but it's not fine. So basically, Madison tells Alan the next day or the next time they have the confrontation after the incident that she's not going to drink with him anymore because he drank and drove. But I see two sides of this situation. On the one hand, Alan is wrong, for drunk driving. But on the other side, I do feel like Madison is using this as an excuse to push Alan away even more because she barely goes out partying with him anyway. And they both party, they both drink. But now she's saying she's not going to drink with him no more. So this is still your husband, So I feel like it's an excuse to keep cutting him out of her life. But at the same time, she is judging him rightfully for, driving after drinking. So then Madison and Alan meet with Dr. Pepper. And he expresses how, he's been trying to change, but he wonders if all that he's chipping away of himself for Madison makes the relationship even worth fighting for. If she don't really want him or any part of him if he has to chip away so much. So she basically says he don't know if she's attracted to him. And she's like, that's a weird question. And he's like, is it? Stop lying. How dare you try to gaslight me right now? And this is why I love Alan, because he doesn't let people play in his face. Alan, says Madison is more natural with the girls and even hugs David more naturally, which made my jaw drop. And Madison, I started getting rid of her. Defenses went up. So I think Alan hit a little nerve there when he called in David. And then she basically tries to deny that, stuff is wrong on her end. But everybody could see that she don't like that man. But then she also reveals that she had a lot of hardships with her mom, who seems to be abusive and struggling with addiction. So I think there are things about the way Alan drinks and parties that triggers her, which confuses me because as someone who has seen what substances can do and how her mom basically abused her and or neglected her, it's interesting to see the generational patterns of it all. Then there's like a Bible said the sins of the parents visit the children to the third and fourth generation, and I think Madison is kind of becoming her mom in a way, because it's like she's saying that Alan's drinking triggers her, right? But then she's being like her mother by staying out drinking with her friends and not coming home to her family and neglecting Alan's needs, talking about her friends was drinking too much, so they all, stayed at the apartment and whatnot. And it's like she needs more help to unpack what she went through, because she's just repeating the same things that she has seen her mother do to Alan. And I think for Madison, her healthiest way of coping is the gym and the working out. And the fact that David is also a gym rat makes even Alan see their kind of natural affinity towards another. So I do feel like the experts kind of fumbled. They should have probably matched Madison and David, because she blonde too. Hey, he like anything blonde. But them two might end up matching themselves if they're part of the couple swap like everybody's suspecting. But again, as much as I like Alan, he is wild for driving drunk, and I could not believe he was that irresponsible. And even Alan's disbelief, basically, at how much he downplayed driving drunk on the highway, talking about he could just use cruise control and that he had some drinks but he wasn't inebriated. And it really sounds like Alan might be on a Karen Huger track to a DUI, and I hate that for him. It's very reckless, dangerous, and extremely disappointing as someone who is kind of a fan of his. So I hope that him and anyone else, listening to this gets the message that, it's not okay to drink and drive. It's not okay to do any kind of substances and drive. Not even take a NyQuil and drive, Don't even take a Benadryl and drive. It's all dangerous. And I've personally lost too many people to car accidents to ever say that's okay. And I hope that Alan has a change of heart about his behavior by the end of the season, or else I can't be a fan of his no more. So say how you felt about the episode in the comments. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, you're the master of your fate and the captain of your soul. Bye.